Hi, everybody, and welcome to the welcome video for English 303 Multimedia Writing. My name is Professor Carlson, and I will be working with you this semester. So I actually know a fair amount of you, actually about 50% of y'all I've had in the past, which is very cool, and I'm very excited, but it's also kind of weird to be doing it asynchronously when I've had the folks that I've had before synchronously. But I'm super excited. So welcome to the class. This is just a brief welcome video to give you a little bit more info on the class and what you can expect for the semester. And, watching this in addition to looking at the materials on the classroom site, as well as the syllabus and the schedule should sort of give you a good overview. So again, I'm Professor Carlson, and I will take you through just briefly what we're looking at for the semester. Okay, I know this feels it's been a while since I've taught via Zoom, and I'm using Zoom to record instead of doing iMovie editing and all of that. So hopefully this will make it a little bit easier. So, all right. So just go through, I'll talk to you a little bit about course basics. We'll talk about multimedia briefly. What does it mean? Give you kind of a working definition. And then I'll talk a little bit about what you can expect from the course. So the basics is immediately as I shared the slides, I end up switching. Okay, so again, I'm Dr. Carlson or Professor Carlson. This is an online asynchronous class, which means that you'll be doing most of the work on your own, and our deadlines are Thursdays and Sundays at 11:59 p.m. So that should sort of indicate to you, you have kind of the bulk of the week to do more, right? And then between Thursday and Sunday, that's usually sort of more of the final stuff. So you can work the whole week. Obviously, you could do everything that's due Sunday by Thursday, but it's kind of scaffolded so that you're doing a lot of like prep work and sort of developing things earlier in the week and then finishing them up over the weekends. But again, I'm trying to be flexible, make it flexible so that depending on your work schedule, your class schedule, you can sort of complete things at your own pace there. So my emails on the syllabus, of course. I'm holding office hours on Mondays 2 to 4 in my office, which is Colson 337 if you've not been there before. But I'm also happy to, of course, meet virtually since this is a virtual class, but just shoot me an email and you can see the course links there. So I'm not going to read this out to you. You can read it on your own. Please do. This sort of gives you an overview. Just a couple things of note that I'm gonna talk about. So there's no textbook for this class. Yay! Instead, I'll give you everything you need through Classroom. Course tools, we'll be using Google Classroom, and I feel like probably at this point, since we've been having a lot of online classes the last several years, you've used Classroom. If you haven't, if you're familiar with Google Drive at all, which I think most of you should be, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty easy, but of course, I'm happy to help if need be. And we'll also use some other stuff throughout the semester, but it's all going to be free and pretty easy for you to access. So I wouldn't worry about that. So here's the major units and assignments. I'll talk more about this at the end of the video, but this is just like a brief overview. So we'll kind of scroll through that. Grading. One thing I do want to point out is, this is a writing class. And so I'm a big believer in that we can always all become better writers. So one policy I do have is you can revise any of the major assignments for a higher grade. The stipulation with that is if you receive your grade and you're unhappy with it, you need to meet with me and talk with me and we'll make a plan together. And then you can redo the assignment. So a few different course policies, things like that, engagement, right? Like this class is different. You're doing a lot of work on your own, but that doesn't mean that classroom community isn't really important. And I really want us to try and build that through different assignments we'll have where you're going to be interacting with one another. So that's something that's really important to me. And then I do want to note this, and you'll see this several times. This is an asynchronous class, but I am going to ask for 4 meetings with you this semester. And you'll have a range of days and times. And basically these meetings will be kind of small, informal. You get to pick your time. It'll be 20 to 30 minutes and we'll be working on stuff for the class and your projects and things like that. So just as a fair warning, you will be asked to do those. It's just 4 times in 16 weeks, which I think is pretty reasonable. Okay, late work. I know this has been an incredibly stressful last couple of years. Trust me, I know. So I am reasonable. So if you need more time on something, please let me know. Like if something's happening, if you get sick, if you're having other troubles, please just email me, let me know, and we'll work out sort of something that works for you. Okay. However, if I don't hear from you, I won't accept work after it's due. You have to be communicating with me, and think of it as like a workplace where if you just ghosted for 3 days or 3 weeks, your boss probably wouldn't be very happy with you and probably wouldn't want to speak to you or sort of listen. So that being said, think of this as like a professional real world environment, because it is. And so please just communicate with me and I'll do everything I can to help you. Working ahead. So, this isn't the type of asynchronous class where we can sit down and buzz through everything in the last 3 weeks of class. Like this is, you have to work on it each week. I release things the Thursday or Friday before the next week. So you can always work ahead by a week, but you can't really do more than that. Just because the way the course works with drafting and peer review and things like that, it just doesn't work otherwise. But if you have concerns about that, let me know. This is all kind of the boilerplate, right? But a couple things, so I urge you to look at this yourself, but a couple things, it's literally my job for you to have a positive and generative experience in this class. And those of you that know me, and I think those of you that don't know me yet, will know soon, I'm really passionate about making sure you have like a really enjoyable and useful and meaningful experience in the class. So please, like, I'm a resource for you. If you have things, questions, like this should be a really vibrant, wonderful learning experience. So please get in touch with me. And I'm here for helping you get through that. Okay. Okay. So syllabus, like I said, look at it yourself. Schedule, you can sort of see how I outline things. So like I said, there's 2 due dates each week, Thursday night, Sunday night. And you can sort of see everything's divided into read. So read these things, review these things, do these things, which I think is pretty clear, pretty self-explanatory. And you'll see throughout, I've worked in some like podcasts, videos, things like that, because this is a multimedia writing course. So you will have multimedia to consume. And you can just kind of see how this looks. So of course, we'll go through it as we go through the course. And of course, also this is subject to change a little bit just based on what's happening and how sort of the pace of the course is going. So if you're like a planner person with like a physical planner, planner person, what does that even mean? But like, an actual planner, I wouldn't just yet go through and write down every single due date in here. I would probably go by unit. So you can sort of trust that the first unit's set in stone. And then when we get to the second unit, you can sort of do it that way. But this is sort of like this document, this is the living document. Whatever is on here is accurate. Okay. Okay. So got through that. I probably sped through it a little fast, but it's how it goes, right? So let's talk a little bit about multimedia and what it means, right? So this class is designed to explore a range of concerns associated with multimedia writing. So figuring out like what that actually means is really important for our work. And what I'll say too is depending on when you take this class and who you take it with, it looks very different just because multimedia is such a broad concept that encapsulates so much. So I'll tell you that my approach is very much like, how can we better understand how multimedia texts and environments shape our daily lives? And so we'll look at lots of different things. And you'll also get to practice writing and creating in different ways, which I think is really like this is a very fun class, I think, both to take, hopefully, and to teach. So, okay. So multimedia. Thinking of just the term, let's break it down for a second. So if we look at multi, right, like what does that mean? And I'm very used to doing this and having somebody respond, even if it's just in the chat. So multi means many, multiple, right? So it means there's multiple sorts of things going on. But if we look at media, right, sorry, I just had things pop up. If we have multiple, if we focus on media, right? What does media mean? Media is a way of communication. It's a channel of communication. It's really focusing on communicating. So when you put it together, it's something that communicates through multiple mediums, okay? So what's a medium? So most simply, the medium is the material form that carries the message. Okay, so if you think of it this way, if we think of a message, so if we have a core message, let's say you are thinking of your grandma and you want to tell your grandma that you miss her, okay? So that's the message. You can convey that message in different ways, right? Like you can do it face-to-face, you can write a note or a card, you can call your grandma on the phone, you could email your grandma or text your grandma, depending on how tech savvy she is, right? So the message is the same, but the medium you use is different, right? So think of the experience you have or that your grandma would have receiving a written letter versus receiving a phone call or a text. It's different. Like the message might be the same, but the way that you receive it and interpret it is very different. So the medium isn't only like the technological form that something takes, but it's also related to the social practices or understandings that that form brings us. So for example, with this letter versus phone call thing, and all of a sudden I'm getting very warm. It snowed today, so I think you can kind of guess what day I filmed this, but I'm like wearing this very cozy thing and now I'm like kind of warm because once you start like talking and gesticulating, you're like all over the place. Anyway, sorry. So, okay. Oh, I can't help myself. All right. So thinking about sort of how you approach a written letter versus a phone call, I think we could say in most cases, a written letter is going to be more formal, right? You're going to have that dear grandma, sort of that salutation, might be a little more formal. Whereas a phone call, it's like, hey, grandma, and it's much more free flowing. Phone call also is like direct interaction versus a letter that's written very like, I sit down and write the letter and send it off, right? So again, like medium shapes quite a bit of the message. Even if the core message is the exact same, it still becomes different, okay? It still is adapting and changing and has slightly different qualities. So sorry to go back. This class is all about multimedia. And so oftentimes, when we talk about multimedia, we're talking about videos, we're talking about songs, we're talking about magazines, things that use like multiple forms of communication. So I want to make this distinction and don't get bogged down in it because we use medium and mode kind of like interchangeably. And again, it's not a huge deal, but I just want to sort of point it out here at the beginning of the class in case some of the readings we do get into this slippage a little bit. So medium is the form or channel through which a message is shared. So the examples are kind of what we were talking about before, but image is a medium, right? Printed text, so alphabetic text, film footage, audio track, even facial expressions or gestures, like those are mediums. It's the channel through which something's shared. Whereas a mode is how something's shared. And if you think of it, mode is always related to sort of the senses. So is it visual? Is it linguistic? Is it spatial? Is it oral or hearing? Or is it gestural, right? So, so an example, a medium can work in multiple modes. So if you think about printed text, so let's say, I have a letter. I don't have a letter here. I have other things, but the letter's what I wanted. Anyway, let's say I have a letter. No, let's see. I have this. This isn't a letter, but we can pretend it's a letter. Okay, let's pretend this is a letter. So when you look at this letter or this, there's printed text here, right? And so you read it. And so you understand it both visually, right, when you glance at it, but you also understand it linguistically. Okay, so it's like these things can sort of, it's all working together. And again, like don't get too worried about this distinction between medium and mode, but really just remember that multimodal or multimedium or multimedia means that a text or an artifact, whatever's in front of you, is communicating with you in multiple ways. So it's not just alphabetic text. It might be alphabetic text and images. It's not just, you know, audio. It's audio that has both music and words, you know? So it's like everything working together. And if this seems kind of like, okay, well, duh, almost everything I encounter in my daily life is this. Yeah, that's the point. Like, we're just inundated with multimedia every day. And so I think it's really valuable to sort of like step back and think about it analytically, because we are with it so often. Okay, so hopefully this didn't confuse you. If it did, leave a comment and I can sort of clarify things. So here's an example of a GIF or GIF, whatever. I know it's technically GIF. If you didn't know that, apparently the creators of the format said it's GIF, but I think it sounds stupid, so I'm going to say GIF. Anyway, so here's a GIF from The Good Place. Haven't watched it? You should. It's amazing. So if you think about the modes, right, or the mediums through which this is communicating with us, we have text, right? We have an image, but we also have movement. Like, that's another thing, right? And that's what distinguishes a GIF from just like a screen cap of this scene with Kristen Bell, right? I almost said Kristen Stewart, very different Kristen, sorry. So it's like, it's working together. Or if it was just the words, this is the bad place, like that's different. Okay. So it's like all of this stuff is sort of working together. And part of this class is thinking about that effect of it all together, but also unpacking how these different mediums impact us and how we can use different mediums in order to impact our audiences as communicators ourselves. Okay, so briefly, just another couple concepts here. So writing, so we'll define writing loosely in this class. So think of it more as like creation, composing, communicating. So it's not just writing 5-paragraph essays, it's designing visuals, it's writing in different types of modes. It's maybe creating something that's audio or video, like it's expansive, okay? So just composing, I think, is a good word to consider. And then one last important concept, so rhetoric. So a lot of you folks are English majors or PWE folks, so you've encountered rhetoric before. So I won't spend too long on this, but basically, you know, rhetoric is affiliated or associated with persuasion or getting a point across. I think that's a pretty safe, overarching definition we could use, but I really like this one. This is probably my favorite, and it's from Lloyd Bitzer, who was writing in the 1960s and 1970s, so a little archaic, but I just think this turn of phrase is really wonderful. So rhetoric is a mode of altering reality, not by the direct application of energy to objects, but by the creation of discourse or text, which changes reality through the mediation of thought and action. So really what this is saying is like rhetoric isn't magic. It doesn't like change the world just by existing, but rhetoric inspires people to do things that then change the world. And I think that's a really like beautiful and accurate way of understanding this, and also an empowering way for those of us who want to create change with our texts, right? Okay, so that was very quick and dirty. So really, really quickly, what are we going to do? Because I promised this video wasn't going to be very long, but I love to talk. And this whole asynchronous, I mean, I've taught asynchronously, but it's been a while and it's just very different. So you'll have to forgive me. So we have 3 main units. And again, if you go back to the syllabus, it'll tell you more. So first, you know, what is multimedia and how can we compose with it? And so our final project for this unit will be a photo essay, which I'm very excited about. So we'll talk more about that, obviously, as this unit moves on. The second unit really has us think about how has technology shaped the ways that we write and think. And so we were talking about platforms and interfaces, and our big project for that will be, we're participating in what is called a Wikipedia edit-a-thon here at WVU, and it's the second one that we're having. We had one last year, which was really great, and we'll talk more about that. But basically, you're going to learn how to edit Wikipedia, and you're going to contribute to Wikipedia, and it's going to be amazing. And then for our final unit of the semester, we're really asking, like, why is multimedia such a major part of our lives? Like looking at it more structurally. And what you're going to do is we're going to be talking a lot about virality and memes and things like that. And so you are going to pick something that's gone viral and sort of track it and see where it's gone and how did it become viral. And it's very fun. So I hope you're as excited about this class as I am. Like I said, it's a really fun class. And I mean, selfishly and kind of like luckily, it's a fun class just like by nature of the topic. But I'm really excited, and I think you'll be able to bring in a lot of like pop culture stuff and things that are going on right now. And I think that's really exciting. So if you have questions, please leave them as a comment on this material on Classroom so that I can see it and respond to it. And if you tag me, so like at me, that helps me see it. So otherwise, take a look at the schedule, make sure you have a good grasp on everything that we're going to be doing for the next week. And if you have any questions or concerns at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Like I said, it's very easy to contact me through Classroom or via my email. And I look forward to working with all of you this semester. All right, take care. Good luck this week. Bye.